let's go. Michael, how are you today?
I am super Martin. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. Doing great, great, great.
Let us welcome all of our viewers. Hello and welcome to AGTP Daily. We go live every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time to discuss the most important tech stories in the US. Martin, it's June 1st, 2026.
Yes.
Let's get right to it. I think this first topic that we have today is actually super interesting. Microsoft's next PC bet runs on Nvidia silicon.
Mhm.
And you may not have seen this, but in a related story, the president or the CEO of ARM has now signed a deal that if it becomes a $1 trillion company, he's going to get like, I don't know, some gigantic like $500 million bonus. But anyway,
Okay.
Meta is launching subscription plans. My guess
Okay.
is, and we'll talk about this, but mostly for their AI stuff, but also Meta launching subscription is important, right? Because when Facebook first launched, they were just like, it's free and it always will be. Anyway, later in the show, we will also be joined by William Bao Bean, a guy I feel like I've known since high school, even though that's not true, but I have known him for a while. He's the managing general partner at Orbit Ventures. We're going to explore how Orbit Ventures is helping emerging market startups use agentic AI to build faster, scale more efficiently, and to compete globally. How does that sound for fun, Martin?
That sounds like a great show. Once again, let's do
It
it.
does. It does. Okay, let's talk about this. So, Nvidia and Microsoft have announced something they're calling RTX Spark,
Okay.
a Windows on ARM PC platform built around an NVIDIA superchip combining an ARM CPU, a Blackwell RTX GPU, large unified memory, and NVIDIA's AI graphics software stack. I feel like I could stop talking right now and we could have like an hour-long conversation about just this. But let me just go on a little bit further if you don't mind.
Let's go.
The idea here, and remember, Martin, all of Apple's chips are ARM. Right, so the M1s, the M2s, the M3s, all the way through the M5s. These are all ARM architectures, not Intel's X086 or whatever. I can't remember the name anymore because I haven't spoken about them in years. But the idea here is that the PC is being repositioned as a local agentic AI machine, not just a productivity endpoint. This is so. You remember you and I were joking earlier, I think last week or the week before, about how like every PC seems to now be like an AI PC. NVIDIA is saying that these RTX Spark systems can run on-device agents.
Okay.
So large local models, creative workloads, and RTX gaming. This should be very interesting for you. In
I wish.
thin laptop, exactly, you at time, and compact desktops. The flagship configuration includes up to 20 ARM CPU cores.
Oh wow.
So I think Apple does something similar. If I remember, they do 12, 16, 20, stuff like that. A Blackwell GPU with 6,144 CUDA, that's CUDA, that's their software architecture cores, and 128 gigabytes of RAM of unified memory. That's a lot of RAM
That's a lot of
on
RAM.
their flagship configuration. Anyway, and the other idea here is that the Windows is being adapted for local agents through AS and Foresight. So it's going to be inside the operating system, right? Identity, manageability, and NVIDIA's OpenShell runtime. The aim here for this, Martin, obviously, is to let agents operate across Windows apps with user-controlled access to tools and data. This is kind of interesting, and the idea, that it's ARM. It's just weird because it means that Apple's been leading this market for what, 5 generations of chips now.
Yes.
And I don't know this for a fact. I don't remember, but I don't think any of the Surface stuff. They might have had some ARM chips in there, but not developed by NVIDIA. And if you just think about what people are trying to do, to run some of these agentic AI stuff locally, and even some of the LLM stuff locally, because this is one of the things that Apple's been talking about for a while, right? They're like, we're building our chips. The M5, obviously the M6 is coming next, and we want to make it so that they can run these large language models locally, so that they have better, not encryption, but better security, right?
But also
Anyways,
better
go ahead.
better cost and better speed as well, right?
For sure, because
Because
the
if you can,
throughput, it's immediate. It's on your machine, so it doesn't
and
have to go anywhere to do it.
and up until today, so the only solution that we have available on the market as of today to run a model locally is to use the open source models that are free to use, right? So
Right. Yep.
which means if you go from Claude Opus, OpenAI GPT 5.5 and you spend $1,000 in token per month, right? Then if you can just spend $3, $4, $5,000 in hardware and then to install Queen, for example, to get then the AI generation, the inference for free, that's
Right.
like a big cost saving, right?
Massive.
So this is like part of the reason why it's such a big deal to be able to do AI locally on your machine. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, Nvidia says that this Spark thing is going to support creative stuff, developer stuff, gaming, including 120 billion parameter LLMs with 1 million token context. Think about that
So
on the machine.
120 billion, right? So 120 billion is pretty small. It's not like the size of Opus or GPT 5.5.
Because they're trillions, yeah.
They're like a couple of trillions. We don't know exactly. Like it's not like a public
20
information.
times, it's like 15 or 16 times smaller.
But yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
But like there's a lot of new things that are happening, right? So maybe the mixture of expert type of thing where you can have like a 1.2 trillion like parameters, but you have only 50 billion active. Does that work on a 120 billion infrastructure? Like does that work? I don't know, but if it does, then that would be a completely different story.
Yeah, I want to get to that
We
in
should
a
ask
moment. I want to give you a little
Cerberus.
bit. Yeah, say it again.
we should ask the team at Cerberus.
Look at my notes. It just says Cerberus. I just wrote it down. Cerebrus actually is what it's called. And I just wrote down that note to myself because I want to go through a little bit of this stuff first, but then I want to get to Cerebrus. Okay.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Excuse me. So the AI PC market is already scaling. You know this. You've joked about it. We've talked about it, right?
Yeah.
Gartner, which is, some kind of consulting company, estimated 77.8 million AI PCs in 2025 and projected almost double that, 143 in 2026. With AI laptops, I mean, I can imagine Microsoft in their Surface line, but also Apple in their MacBook Pro stuff, expected to become a majority of laptop shipments in 2026. Particularly if Apple comes out with the next generation of M6 stuff, which they did say they want to optimize for on-device LLMs. And you're right. We don't know if this MOE stuff, right? So this mixture of expert stuff is flexible enough, right? So that you can have access to it, but only use the stuff that you need. That's the 128 billion parameters.
Yeah.
And then if you need access to the others, it moves those out of the way or delete whatever, and then brings in the other MOE stuff if they're tagged properly, right? So that's the difference here.
Yep. Does that work? But also, I think it raises a lot of very interesting questions. Because like as of today, I feel like the world didn't go towards that route because it was way too expensive to be able to do that. You had to buy like massive GPUs, massive computers, way too expensive. So it's just much less expensive to buy $100, $200 subscription at Anthropic or OpenAI, or even pay for the tokens. But if tomorrow we can start hosting models by ourselves, and that works, and that's not like crazy expensive, and when I say it works, it means like we are able to get the same quality as Opus or GPT 5.5,
right,
or close enough, right? Like as we say, like something that is just like a few months old, maybe enough for a very large part of the market. If we can get there, I think there's a lot of very interesting questions. Like for example, could the OS be the harness for the agents? Do we actually need Cloud Code or Codex or Cursor if we can just do it directly inside the operating system, right?
So can I ask you this though?
Mm-hmm.
Can't you go to Opus 4. What are we? 4.7, 4.8? No, 4.8 was released yesterday, yeah? The day before.
4.8, yep.
So 4.8 is released. It's way more powerful than 4.7. It blows away 4.6. It makes 4.5 look like child's play. You know what I mean? Like it just keeps getting better and better. If I have access to Opus 4.8 or Codex, whatever the newest number is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just say to it, build me a mixture of experts LLM that can run on an ARM chip, whether it's an M6 or one of these Nvidia chips, right? I give it access to the chip. I tell it that it knows CUDA. Can Opus 4.8 do that? And if it does, and then I run it locally, do you know what I mean? Then I don't need to pay And every time they come out with a new model, then can I just like buy the subscription for a month? You know what I mean? Pay $20, get access to the model, and then just go rewrite this new model. Like, couldn't I just go rewrite Mythos for me? Just don't tell anybody.
So I think there's a big part in training, my girl. Like you get to train the models on like tons of parameters.
Build me a trained model. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I don't think it's that simple, but I see the idea. I see the idea. And yeah, I think like I think it's going to open like a lot of new possibilities. Another possibility could be, for example, something like like an hybrid model, for example, like from Anthropic or from OpenAI, where a part of the model could run locally on your machine, and that would be for free, for example. But then for, I don't know, the heavy stuff or for the very big questions, then that gets sent to the data centers, and then you have this hybrid model where you have half that's local and half in the cloud. If the local model starts to be the way to go, and a lot of people start to be interested into that, I think that Anthropic and OpenAI will have to do this type of hybrid model, because they will need to be able to compete with free. Like that's gonna be a massive problem. Like Queen, Minimax, and all of these guys, they are free. So how do you compete with free if people can actually access them?
so doesn't this get back to the question we had a couple of weeks ago of like, where is the real value in the value
Yeah,
chain for
exactly.
AI? Do the model
Yep.
providers actually maintain any value, or is this the reason why? What did OpenAI announce today? That they're building like I can't remember what it was, but like they're building something else.
Really?
I can't
I
remember what it
didn't see
was.
that. Oh yeah.
But you mentioned Cerebrus, and I wanted to bring this up again because I'd been thinking about this too. Do we not think that Cerebrus, which is now 10% owned by OpenAI, could create chips similar to what Nvidia did, even if they're not ARM chips?
Yeah.
And that OpenAI, like I feel like we're at a tipping point here. We're at an inflection point where even the PC operating system now, because you could literally, because you could tell Opus 4.8 rewrite Mac OS 10, right? And you could do that, but make it work on, a Cerebrus chip. No,
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I don't know if it's like as powerful as rewriting an entire OS and actually making it work, right? But if it's not today, it's going to be in a couple of months or a couple of years, right? Like the directionality is definitely going into that direction, and like the growth of the model every day they get better, and they are going into that direction of being able to do these type of things. And so yeah, like at some point that's maybe possible. And so that's what I think. Like the more I think about it, the more I think that the operating system is the best way to access AI. Like we don't need cloud code,
for sure.
we don't need OpenAI codecs, we don't need cursor, we don't need anything if everything is properly connected inside the operating system. And that's one thing that we discussed like a couple of weeks ago, where that was a huge missed opportunity for Copilot that has been integrating since day one, I think, inside the Microsoft
Massive missed opportunity.
OS, right? Like why they didn't build the integration with Photoshop, why they didn't build the integration with Microsoft Word, why they waited for everybody else to do it and then catch up, where they already had something good, already really well connected with the operating system of Microsoft, right? For Apple, it's a different story because they could do it, but Siri is bad, so they can't really do it, right? But they also already have like an integration between an AI interface and all the other ecosystem of app and services that they offer. Microsoft does the exact same thing, and now Claude and OpenAI, they are just rebuilding all of these things, right? They are rebuilding all the integration and absolutely everything. Why? We tend to already have them, right? So that's why that should be the next things that we do.
So do you think, I want to, because I saw this OpenAI, it wouldn't surprise me at all if OpenAI or Anthropic started developing their own hardware,
Well, good luck, huh?
their own AI-enabled hardware. Because, say it again.
Good luck, I think. I think that's going to be really hard.
But why? In other words, like this is what I mean when I feel like I say that I feel like we're at an inflection point.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Do you know what I mean? Because
Mm-hmm.
they've already said OpenAI has already said they want to develop their own smartphone.
Yeah.
So the smartphone itself is a commodity. Like anybody can build one. Oppo can build one for you, right? Samsung can build one for you. They can white label all this stuff for you. But you control, and because Android is completely customizable, right? You can then build your own AI, agentic AI into it, your own AI modules into it. And since you're the model owner, you'll have more access to it or better access to it or better understanding of how this works than Apple would for sure. Now, we know we talked about Apple and their distribution model. Microsoft also has massive distribution.
Exactly, yep.
Right? I don't know how many PCs there are in the world, but it has to be at least 1 billion or 2, right? So the question now is, if OpenAI is working with Cerebras to build chips, why wouldn't they just be able to, build a chip that does what NVIDIA's chip is doing and have this sort of hybrid chip out there? And even if they don't build exactly their own hardware, they can contract with someone to build hardware for them that is optimized for the stuff that they're working on.
That would make way more sense than a finance app or a car or stuff like that, right? Like if I were OpenAI, I think I would invest more into a PC, exactly, rather than something so far away, like everything that they announced the last 2 months.
Well, but this is what's happening with this NVIDIA stuff, right? So apparently 30 plus laptops and roughly 10 desktop systems are planned from partners including Dell, HP, Lenovo, Microsoft, ASUS, and MSI. And what normally happens here, Martin, is Microsoft, along with their other hardware providers, will create what's called a reference device. This is what the Surface was at the beginning, right? It's just a reference device. Here's the best possible thing we think we can make. Here's how you'd attach a keyboard to it. Here's how you put touch on it, all this other kind of stuff. Go. Right? Because Dell already knows how to build Windows-based stuff. Lenovo does too. HP does too. ASUS, I haven't heard from them recently. At MSI, we know is also building stuff too. But could you imagine then if all of them change from, if they want to make these things AI enabled or AI optimized, which feels like the direction that things are going. And I think for the first time ever, we can have this conversation that says, if we'd said this is an AI PC a year ago, it would have sounded a little bit like BS, right?
Yes, which is what they did like the last 2 years.
They did, because you and I were joking about it offline, right?
Yes.
But now I feel like if some of that stuff can run locally and if the chips are optimized enough to be able to do that, even if it's a hybrid model, as you were suggesting earlier, this idea now that everybody, meaning every potential PC maker, is now going to embed this thing, whether it's directly into the operating system or peripheral to the operating system. Now it can actually be like a real AI-enabled PC.
Yep.
And I think that I don't say this a lot. You know that. I'm not I don't buy into any kind of hype. But that could literally change the game on what an operating system is meant to do and how people actually interact with their PCs. And remember, what was the name of that guy? Remember who was talking when we were at AI Enterprise, who said that you're going to be able to just basically talk to your PC and tell it to do stuff. And remember, one of the things I said was, well, can you tell it to do 5 different things at once? And he said, that's a great idea. We're not there yet. But that's a programming problem, not a device problem.
No, exactly.
But you understand the point, right? Sorry, go ahead.
Completely understand the points. And I think, actually, no, it's not I think, it's I feel the same thing as you, which is we are at an inflection point right now, and it's not clear, or a lot of people are working on different solution for AI V2. We had V1 up until now, right? But now the version 2 is not clear, and we see a lot of different paths, right? We see OpenAI and Anthropic who are working on cloud solutions. We see Amazon that also distribute OpenAI through their own AWS platforms. We see the Chinese models that are developing open source solutions. The chip makers are starting to be a lot of guys doing it, and a lot of different architecture as well. Plus, you have the data centers into it. We didn't touch yet about power. We didn't touch too much about power yet, but that's going to come into the discussion at some point as well. But it looks like there's so many things going on right now. Plus, also there's new business models as well. You have OpenAI that want to do ads. You have Meta that launch also AI and may use ads or may use subscription. We're gonna talk about that after. But so there's a lot of different stuff that are happening right now. You have subscription, you have tokens, you have ads, you have multiple ways of accessing AI. You have harnesses, you have open source, you have closed models. You have so much stuff going on right now, right? And
don't you think we're at the point though where personal computers? I hate to call it a PC because then it feels like it's a Microsoft only thing, but like the computer that you carry around with you that's not your phone, and even if it is your phone, right? They use to do calculations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That the way you're going to use it is going to change completely, like in the next year or so. And here's the thing: everybody uses Microsoft Office, whether they some form or shape of Microsoft Office, right? So whether it's Google Sheets or Apple's Keynote, like everyone's doing four things. They're writing Word documents, they're doing calculations in a spreadsheet, they're making a presentation. What's the fourth one? What am I missing?
Doing on the internet.
Going in, it's going to be the fifth thing, but like there's Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint. Am I missing one? That's funny. Anyway, but that's what most people are doing. And then they're going to the internet to like get information and book stuff. But if you can run native on your laptop or on your PC,
Yep.
do you need a spreadsheet? Really?
Exactly. No, that's true. That's true. It can change absolutely everything. Yep. And this is once again like something that Microsoft could have built with Copilot. I mean, Copilot was not good enough, and Agent AI was not there yet, so it was hard to imagine, right? But still, it's Microsoft. They have a lot of smart people who would have think about it. But as of today, I really wonder, okay, what's gonna be the next big, like how are we going to use AI v2? Right, and it's going to be very different from AI v1. But I really like the idea of open source first of all, and being able to host the models locally on our own machine. So exactly what Microsoft and Nvidia are starting to build, right? To give Michael some more context, we have a 128 gigabytes of RAM on our PC.
We do, right?
Yes, that's what we have, and it's not enough to run most of the good models. Like it's still small. It's still really, really small. That's the reason why
we wouldn't have. We did 128 because at the time we bought it, like that was probably the most we could get at the most reasonable price. But we could go up to like a gigabyte of.
We to do much more, and you actually need to do much more to be able to run models like as good as Opus or GPT 5.5. You need like much better than that.
Yeah, for sure, because they're running 1,000 cores and stuff like that. But here's the other thing. The reason why Microsoft didn't do this, like just think about why they wouldn't do it. Because they are, this is really interesting the more you think about it.
Tell me.
Well, Microsoft Office has become a SaaS platform. Right, in the old days, they would update, like it would be, Microsoft Office 7, it would be like in 2016, then you buy the one in 2017. And then they started doing, you just subscribe to Office 365.
Yeah,
and you pay a monthly fee for it.
True.
So why would they try to destroy that, which is a huge cash cow for them? Because Martin, then the other question is, if you don't need Microsoft Office anymore, but you can still run sophisticated calculations in the background by letting your large language model do it for you, or running some other agentic AI that actually understands mathematics, finance math, physics, all this kind of stuff. It can run that, but you don't need a spreadsheet for it. You just give it data, ask it to do calculations, have it send it back to you in a deterministic way, not in a probabilistic way. Then why do you need the spreadsheet? Because you almost never look at the spreadsheet for anything except the output of the data that it gives you. And then you put that into Microsoft PowerPoint or Microsoft Word. But then why do you need Microsoft Word if there are plenty of, like you said, open source or free stuff that can do the same thing at 80% of the level? And the same thing for PowerPoint. You could use Keynote, which ships for free with Apple's products. So what? And if you don't need Office, then why do you need Windows?
Okay.
The only reason why you need Windows is because it runs all the software that runs on native to Windows, right? I'm just saying, like, I'm just trying to think like further out, second order, third order impact of this stuff. It's not going to happen overnight. But if you're doing all your calculations, either A, on the internet, or B, in a large language model, or some facsimile, something like a large language model. But again, you're right. As AI V2 or V3 or whatever comes out, it's not going to be an LLM. It's just going to be some other kind of model, right?
Yeah.
But if you're doing all your stuff inside the model, then the model is the operating system, and then you don't need the operating system itself. It's hard to conceptualize it in your head, right? Because you're just used to, here's my spreadsheet where I do all my calculations. I take those calculations, I put them into PowerPoint. I take that PowerPoint thing, and I make a presentation, and then I make money. But what if you just have a database filled with numbers that are properly tagged, and then you tell it to create output that gives you all these numbers, put it into a presentation that doesn't have to be Microsoft PowerPoint. Like, when do you then need to pay for the subscription for Microsoft Office?
Yeah, actually, like, we can did it on our own into our massive company that is Untitled Media, right? Like, we don't use the editing software much because we are doing the editing ourselves using the LLMs, right? Like, the AI is actually able to do editing itself. It can put subtitles at the right place. It can style everything the way we want. It can cut the video where we need to be cut. It can change the shot, and all of this and all of that is done with AI without Premiere Pro, for example, right? So
yeah,
so it's not as powerful as of today, but yeah, like AI is getting better and better every day, and so
I mean, think about it. Even Microsoft Word, like, the only reason we've used Microsoft Word in the last 3 to 5 years is to send a document to our client.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it.
That they could read in Microsoft Outlook and then bring into their operating system locally.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I could just send a text file. Because nothing we're doing in Microsoft Word is that fancy. It's just like that was the only way they could read it. Remember?
Yep. So we have someone, Michael, who want to add something. We have a comment in the chat. We say, I feel like Windows is in any form cannot be the optimal OS for this application.
But ask them why.
So Joy, tell us why. But I kind of feel.
Wait, for which application? When they said it can't be the operating system for this application, what do they mean?
Yep. So the way I understand it, and please correct me, Joy, if you mean something else. But the way I understand it is that if you want to have the AI to run all the application and all of these things, then maybe as you say, Michael, like Windows is just going to be in the way, and then we can just replace that with something much more efficient, because it's not going to be the most optimal OS for actually running AI and then running the app. To your point.
So imagine a world, Martin, where like Cerebras or even Nvidia gets together with Anthropic or with OpenAI and says, here's like the overall system for running all the queries that you have. Then why do you don't need Office for sure.
Yep. So if Anthropic can one-shot a C compiler, then when will they make an operating system?
So this is exactly what I'm talking about. So it's a really good question by Els and Joy, and that is, what does he say? With one-shot a C compiler, yeah. So again, all of this stuff, all of these operating systems were probably written in C or C# or C++ or C++, right? So that's not actually true for Apple. No, it's Unix. So yeah, probably it's written in C, because they're all Unix based, right? And if that's the case, then when will they make their own operating system? But the real question is, you have to abstract this all away. And I'm curious what the chat thinks about this. Abstract away the necessity for an OS, because what does an OS do? An operating system is the way that your programs talk to the operating system, which then translates that into machine language, which then talks to the machine. But if the LLM is already powerful enough to talk to the machine itself, then you can abstract away the operating system in the way you think about it today, and then just do stuff inside of the artificial intelligence.
And in a way, what you just say actually works already. Because, like, for example, for a lot of the software that we have built for our super large company that is Untitled Media, like, the LLM is actually helping me to say, look, we should do it this way because you use on your PC, you have an Nvidia GPU, you have X amount of RAM, and so we can do that. But on your Mac Mini, here is the hardware that you have, so we need to do it this way.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Right.
So which means it already takes into consideration the translation from the OS to actually build the software that will be translating the correct way, right? Which means because the LLM already knows what the state we have, it should actually build it directly and use the CUDA himself, basically, right?
So I'm going to
And
say,
then just
I'm going to
keep
say something
the-
even more controversial.
Mhm.
The kernel,
Yeah,
like how familiar are you with operating systems, Martin?
just a little bit, just a little bit.
So the kernel for OS
Mhm.
X or OS 10 is Unix. It's a Unix kernel.
Okay.
So it's, you know what Unix is, yeah?
Mhm.
It's a very specific type of operating system. In the old days, it wasn't always that way. Mac OS had its own kernel. Microsoft, when it moved to Microsoft NT,
Okay.
I think NT stood for new technology actually, but when it did that, this is like in the early 2000s, they also switched to Unix because it was just more powerful and more secure and more everything. So what's the difference between Microsoft Windows and Apple's operating system? They both have a Unix kernel.
Yeah.
So this idea of having to translate stuff from Windows into Mac OS is actually a little bit of a head fake, unless I'm 1,000% wrong, because they're both the same in the back end. Wait, what is he saying? Well, I can definitely imagine it. The GUI would be regenerated on demand and the OS layer shrinks to zero. Exactly. That's the point. It's hard to abstract it away when your whole life inside operating on a computer has had an operating system which you had to interact with, and then that interacted with the stuff. But whoever this is right. This is the abstraction I'm trying to get to, and that is, it can create the UI in real time. Remember, Mark, we were talking to that guy,
Yes,
from
yes,
India,
yes.
who said they were building the UI in real time.
In real time, yep.
You know, depending on what your role was at the company,
Mhm.
and then the operating system in this case goes to zero.
Yeah, this is really interesting third, fourth, maybe fifth order
It is though, right?
consequences. But the fact that Nvidia launched a PC, maybe they think about it. Like Nvidia launched Nvidia Spark, like what, 1 year or two ago, right? So maybe they already think about it. They are like, oh, dude, we made all the components. Let's launch something, because the day that we don't need the OS anymore, then we already have a PC, right? I mean, we already have a personal computer, right? That not a Windows machine. But so they already launched something regarding that, and then in case that happens, then I can definitely see a world where either Anthropic or OpenAI should buy a PC maker, like an MSI, maybe not Lenovo, but Dell, one of those guys, right? So like if you are Anthropic or OpenAI, you should buy one of these large PC maker right now to actually do exactly what you said. And in case the OS doesn't go away, then at least you can optimize the model for the machine. You can work on low models. You can really create this AI PC, this AI machine that can be super helpful, right? So actually, yeah, that's much more expensive, I think, to buy MSI or to buy Dell or one of these large PC makers. But it would make ton of sense. It would make ton of sense for the model provider to actually buy them right now.
I think you'd have to, if you're going to buy anybody, you have to buy just a bespoke box maker, because all you really need is the expertise on how to like combine all the components and build the box together. I would say this though, I do think for sure that in the next like 3 to 5 years, you're going to see this operating system environment completely change, because the necessity for the OS is just going to be just massively different. And I don't think anybody else is talking about this right now. But you're right. The other thing, Martin, is that now you're going to have Apple running on ARM chips. Apple's phones run on ARM chips. Snapdragon chips are ARM chips. Excuse me. Microsoft Windows is going to run on ARM with this Nvidia stuff that they're building, right? The RTX stuff is an ARM chip. So again, we don't have to spend any time about like what happens to Intel. And one of the reasons why ARM is so powerful in this case is because from a power management standpoint and a heatsink standpoint, they're just way more efficient. This is one of the reasons why Apple switched them, right? Because they're building most of their stuff that gets sold as laptops. We know that when they built their first Mac Pro, it had terrible thermal problems. And now that they're all on ARM chips, they don't have any of these thermal problems anymore.
Yep.
Because they're just so much more. They're just so much more efficient from a power perspective. They don't heat up as much.
They work really well. Really, really well.
Yeah. And again, in the chat, OpenAI is saying they're going to launch a phone next year. I think that there's the possibility that that phone can actually be more successful than the Meta phone that they tried to launch, or the Facebook phone that they tried to launch, I don't know, 15 years ago. Nobody wanted it. Nobody needed it. It didn't have any added benefits to it.
It needs to be an AI phone, but in this case, right? It needs to be
something it has to be
really unique, right? It needs to be something completely unique, like a whole new experience. Because if you just put Android and then you have access to the Android App Store and then, it's just the same thing, better integration with ChatGPT or stuff like that, or if OpenAI just does this phone because they are mad at Apple because Apple didn't integrate ChatGPT into Siri that the way OpenAI thought they would, right? And so then they sue them and blah, blah, blah. And then they say, hey, we are going to make a phone. No, it's not going to work, right? Here we are really talking about a completely new paradigm, right? Like something completely different on how we use our machine, how we access the softwares, how we play game, how we access how we access the hardware on our machine by disintermediating the actual software that does the translation between what we want to do and the actual GPU and CPU who actually do them, right? So if we change that, because the AI is able to optimize it, doing it faster, better, stronger, more efficiently, and be a real assistant at the end of the day, right? Because right now we still need to type everything, but tomorrow we can like if we can extrapolate everything we do with AI agents as of now, which is like the crowns, which is writing data, which is launching softwares, editing pictures, editing videos, changing data into database, like all of this stuff are actual work. If tomorrow we actually optimize that, make it so much more efficient to use the hardware in the machine that we have, that would be a really interesting V2 for AI.
Yeah. So yeah. I wish there was a way to stop calling this thing a phone.
A smartphone, maybe.
But it's not even a smartphone. Like, when was the last time you made a call, a phone call? Do you know what I mean?
It never happened.
Where you dialed like 1-800, my mom. Like, you've just not done that in years.
No.
You make a call online, or you make a call on WhatsApp, but it's not like a phone call. But you can't really call it like a handheld computer, because that sounds like something from the 1970s. But there's got to be a better word for this. Because if I said to you that OpenAI or Anthropic is going to build their own compute device that was small, like a pocket compute device, the wrong term. It sounds bad, but you understand the point.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Nobody would think that was weird. But when you say they're going to build their own phone, you're like, no one's going to use an OpenAI thing to make a phone call. But no one uses their iPhone to make a phone call either, for the most part.
Yep.
Right?
So let us know what you think in the chat about the OpenAI phone. Like, what do you think? What would you want the OpenAI phone to do? Let us know. But for me, same as the PCs, as personal computers, it would need to be like a complete change of paradigm, right? Except if maybe like the V1 of like everything that we have discussed up until now is just to be able to run local models on the machine, right? So like we don't go too far for now because the AI is not powerful enough yet. But if we can run $1 trillion parameters for a cost that is okay, that like it's not more than $4,000-5,000 USD, right, to buy the machine that can do that. So like just a very expensive MacBook Pro, right, or a Mac Studio. If that's become possible, this is going to change a lot the market, and this is going to I think destroy a lot of value for OpenAI and Anthropic. This is a real threat to me.
So here's the question, and this is another great question. Portable device will really need full local LLMs, but how will the Frontier Labs profit if they can't charge per token?
Exactly.
So my contention here is that I think that the token model is going to go away. And I've been talking about this for weeks now. And part of the reason why is I don't think anybody knows what one token costs, which means I don't think they know how to charge per token. And even if they do know how to do it, they're subsidizing it. They need to find a better way to understand what the compute costs are associated with any of the model calls that they do. And you saw Agnes AI yesterday just announced they're giving away their model for free.
Everything for free. Yep. Yep.
Okay,
This
it's
is
the same thing. Look, we've been hearing rumors. This is like one of the funniest things you can ever say is like Linux on the desktop. Linux itself is a free distribution of like BSD, which is it's its own version of Unix. That's why they call it Linux, because it was built by this guy named Linus Torvalds, right? But anyway, he rewrote his own version of Unix because Unix itself was open source as well. But the point is that nobody ever paid for Unix. I mean, for Linux, but they paid for all the services around it. And I think this is one of the things that OpenAI has figured out, maybe that Anthropic hasn't figured out yet. I keep going back and forth on this. OpenAI announced yesterday they're hiring. And again, Martin, this gets back to this thing about the job apocalypse. OpenAI announced yesterday that they're in the midst of hiring, I don't know how many people, but they want to build an entire OpenAI robotics division.
Oh, yeah. They do everything.
That uses artificial intelligence to build robotics. So the question is like, AI itself is not going to build the AI robots, but they have to hire a bunch of people to do it. Do you know what I mean? All the people that got fired from Meta last week, 8,000 people now have a new job in the robotics division at OpenAI. I don't know.
Yep. But yeah, but like going back to Elden Joy question, we talk a lot with Michael about who is going to capture most of the value in AI in like 5 years, right? And it's not clear at all that the LLM
it's going to be the model
themselves,
companies.
so Anthropic or OpenAI are actually going to be the one winning in the AI space. It's really not clear at all. And to your point, the Chinese models are exactly a massive threat. And we say Chinese because they are the only one as of today who make really, really good open source models, right? But tomorrow, if we are able to once again run open source models that are really, really good on a machine that is at a $4,000-$5,000 price point, you will see also open source models from the US, because Anthropic and OpenAI will have to compete with free. It's going to be really, really hard. It's going to redefine completely how OpenAI and Anthropic can make money, because the competition will do the same thing for free, right? So it's going to be a completely different this situation if we can get really, really good models at an affordable price on our local machines. So yeah, no, it's really not clear at all who is going to win in a couple of years. Like, who is going to be the largest money maker? What services? Is it the cloud? Is it the chips? Is it the models themselves? Like, who is it going to be? Like, is it the data centers? Is it the power provider? Well, there's a lot of questions, a lot of things happening right now that is going to actually impact who is going to make the most money in 5 to 10 years in the AI space. It's really not clear.
Yeah, and the real question is, again, what happens to the existing PC? That means both Macs and Windows operating systems or operating system paradigms, when they just become completely disambiguated, or they just become unnecessary, as we're suggesting today. Then which device maker is actually going to make more money? Or like, where's the money going to get made? And the more we think about it, the more like I said, Agnes, we've had those guys on the show a couple of times, right? That model is going to be given away for free. And I think the people that are going to make the money are the people that actually build the right services around AI. And I'm not talking about just FDEs, not just teaching people how to use artificial intelligence, but real services that maybe we can't understand yet. And I don't think it's going to be necessarily in the agentic space, because everybody and their brother seems to be writing an agentic layer that they're going to all try to sell to the same people. We don't need 1,000 of these companies that build agents for people, do we?
Yeah. We don't need. And Elder, just before you leave, it just shared with us, I think ultimately the only moat will be hardware or over connection to the physical world. The cost of software and AI models will crash to zero. We are completely aligned. I think this is exactly what
we've been saying this. We've been saying this for weeks now. I don't hear anybody else say it, but yeah, Martin and I have been saying this for weeks. Okay, you got to go. Thanks, man. We appreciate the back and forth.
Yeah, I press the button for off. We do this live every day at 11 a.m. Eastern time, so you are most welcome to join us. Thank you very much for all of that. That was cool.
Awesome. Do you want to continue on this, or do you want to do a few minutes on Meta?
Let's do the next topic. Let's do the next topic.
Okay, so Meta is they're launching subscription plans, Martin. So let's talk about that for a moment or two. They're rolling out paid subscriptions across Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp while preparing a broader subscription architecture called Meta One for AI users, creators, and businesses. I don't want to go through necessarily the prices per se, but like they want people to pay essentially $4 a month for Instagram Plus, Facebook Plus at $4 a month, and WhatsApp at $3 a month. And the paid features are mostly incremental: profile customization, story tools, super heat rate, like just stuff you'd want, but you want more of.
Okay.
And again, I don't know how much you use Instagram or your friend group uses Instagram, but like, I think there are people out there using Instagram in ways that like you have not seen yet. And there's tons of customization features that people are using and tons of other things that are going on there. And I'm not just talking about the shopping stuff, but like Instagram has morphed into a really, really powerful platform.
It's powerful.
And I can see now places where people would actually pay for some of the functionality. They're testing Meta One Plus at $7.99 a month and Meta One Premium at $20 a month. That's for their AI users. Okay. So you have to understand that like the premium tier is expected to provide more capacity for higher compute queries, deeper thinking mode, and more image and video generation across Meta apps. I mean, essentially what they're saying is they're going to have to get into the same business that OpenAI and Anthropic are in.
So
particularly on the AI side. Go ahead.
This is actually really interesting. I think this is very interesting. Here is like how I see this thing. First of all, X has launched their subscription, and that was the only social media platform where you actually had to pay, because if you don't pay, then you have like nothing on the platform. It's really, really bad, and you actually have to pay something to actually get the verification and to get some exposure on your tweets and stuff like that. So you have to pay. That's is pretty much the only way that X is making any money, because I don't know if the ad platform is actually very successful or not, but I don't think it is very successful.
No, I mean even Elon Musk, it was a year ago or 2 years ago, said he just gave the middle finger to all his advertisers. He's like, I don't care if you guys give us any money ever, right?
Exactly. So that's the first thing. X did it. Then say then you have OpenAI and Anthropic, who are both making money selling AI models, right? So they make money two ways. First of all, through the token sale, and also through the subscription. They have these two different business models. Instead of that, you have OpenAI that say, hey, we are going to do ads. So we are going to go to Facebook business models. We are going to offer ads to the people who don't pay for the AI. Inside all of this, you have Facebook Meta, that says, hey, we are also going to put a lot of money into Meta Intelligence Lab, and we are going to create a super good AI models ourselves as well, right? And so now, I think if you're in the position of Facebook, now you have you have a choice. Either you go do ads, so you monetize your model with something that you know really, really well how to do, or you do what everybody else is doing, which is charging for a subscription. And so it looks like they are going to the subscription model. Is it a test? Is it a V1? Is it just like they are going to do both? They are going to do subscription plus ads. I think this is like all the questions that we are going to get answered about in the next couple of months, right? But I think it tells a lot about what they believe ads only business model, like how that could work, which tells a lot about the chances of success of OpenAI ads. I think I think when Meta launch a subscription, it means that they don't believe ads is going to be enough or is going to be big enough.
So interestingly, Meta's ad business, the family of apps, like is $55 billion compared with $855 million in other revenue. But here's, I think, what's more important, Martin.
Tell me.
Again, rhetorical questions. How many people use Facebook? How many monthly active users are there? 3 billion.
Wow.
How many monthly active users are there for Instagram? 3 billion. There's probably
Okay.
overlap, yeah.
For sure, yeah.
And how many monthly active users are there for WhatsApp? Again, another Meta product. 3 billion people.
Okay.
So remember we talked earlier about how not Microsoft, how Apple has like 2 billion devices in the wild, and they're essentially a distribution platform.
Yes.
What does that make Facebook?
Yeah, Meta. Yeah. Meta is insane, for sure.
Right.
And plus,
But here's something even more interesting.
yeah,
What are the monthly active users on ChatGPT?
it's like 900 million.
Perfect. It's 900 million, somewhere between 894 and 900 million people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's a third, and they only have one product,
Yes.
ChatGPT. I mean, they have two, the Codex stuff, but like that, people are not. I don't think they're going to embed ads into Codex. That would be weird. It's like, oh, so you're programming an app about this thing. You know, you could also buy dog food. Like that's not going to be the way that works. I don't think, right?
No, I don't think so. That would be absolutely terrible and the worst scenario ever.
It just would be a really bad example.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's really interesting that they are launching. I mean, in a way, it makes tons of sense, right? Like you put so much money into developing your AI model. If it works really well, then you want to give it access via subscription to your users. You have 3 billion people who use your apps. That's your distribution. If X amount of them that turns into a client, like you can be making tons of money really quick, right? And then you don't need to create the entire new business model of ads inside AI, which is something that no one knows yet if it's going to work, if it's going to be something that the users like or stuff like that, right? So that's why in a way it makes ton of sense, but also it kind of say that they are not trying to monetize through ads, right? Or maybe not at first, or maybe not only, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they give themselves option A and option B, what plan A and plan B, to be able to make money from ads or through subscription, and then maybe once again in 2 years they just give up on one of them, something like that, right? But yeah, once again, it looks like there's a lot of stuff happening in the AI space right now. A lot of things that the large companies are trying. They don't know yet. They are testing right now. They are in testing mode. They are all in testing mode.
Think about a little bit of this mathematics, though, right? So we said that $55 billion of ads on ad payments on Facebook, with other revenue almost $1 billion. Let's call it 885 million.
Yeah.
But if 1% of Meta's 3-something billion daily active users paid $3 a month, that's another $1 billion of revenue.
Yeah, like
$3 a month. Because what do you say again?
Yeah, like instantly, like tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, look, what do you pay for your YouTube subscription?
Yeah, it's like you're right. Actually, YouTube is another social media, we can say, or online platform that actually charge a subscription for a premium version of their product. And we also do pay for YouTube Premium. So in Thailand, it's pretty cheap. But what's the price in the US? Maybe like $10 per month, something like that, or $8. So maybe like $100 per year.
Per year. But Martin, again, I'm going to ask the question, but I'll answer it too. How many monthly active users are there on YouTube?
Oh, it must be huge. 1 billion.
No, it's almost 3. It's like 2.6 to 2.7 billion monthly active users globally.
Okay.
It's the second most visited website and second largest social platform in the world behind Google and Facebook. But the point is that, again, they can add $1 billion of revenue if they charge $3.99 a month for 1% of the people that use their thing too.
Yeah.
So the potential revenue growth is amazing. And look, I have friends that still use YouTube without a subscription, and I'm like, what are you doing?
It's hard. I'm sorry if our audience do that on our videos. Yep.
Please don't.
Please subscribe to YouTube Premium. We don't get any money if you do that, but just for the experience, it's going to be much better.
It's going to be much better for you. That's the other thing that I tell my friends. It's just like, it's just a way better experience.
Yeah.
If you're not having the ads, and the cost to you, like, I don't know how they can. I'd just love to see the revenue offset. Do you know what I mean? Between like the ads that they get, because some big companies like Procter and Gamble and these big like consumer products companies, they do ads on on YouTube.
Yep. Yep.
And they have multi-billion-dollar ad campaign spends. Now, it's not all of it's not on YouTube, but the point is that, like, I don't know. I feel like my subscription in Thailand is like 200 and something baht a month.
Yeah, it's really something about, yeah, super cheap.
Yeah, it's weird. 200 baht sounds cheap, but like 300 baht would be $10 essentially.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. No, but yeah, it's really interesting what's going on right now into the space. But also, like, once again, it's one more layer of competition for ChatGPT and for Claude, right? So it feels to me like Claude or Anthropic is more towards the enterprises and they make money through token sale, right? But OpenAI is definitely making a lot of money through their subscription and maybe not yet as much through the token sale. So Meta developing a new model that they give away through subscription is a direct new competition to OpenAI, right? So once again, who is going to win in 5 years in the AI space? Like, who is going to be what is going to be the product that makes the most money? Who is going to survive? That's one more very large, very strong competitor to the model themselves. That's
And
scary.
you know what's really funny, Martin? Like, it's not really off topic, but you know what nobody else talks about as well is no one says, like, is Google going to put ads in Gemini? Because they already do.
Okay.
Because all they've done the reverse thing, right? So if you look at OpenAI, they said we're going to put ads into the chat. So it's completely changing that experience. All Google's saying is we're just going to roll out Gemini
Exactly. For
into
everybody.
Google search,
Yeah.
and the ads are still going to be the same or even better, right? Because maybe they'll be more contextual and maybe they'll be more relatable and more personalizable.
Yep.
But they're not explicitly charging you for Gemini. Now, I don't know. I mean, yeah, because I log into Google. When I do Google search, I do it on a non-paid subscription plan. I don't do it for our company thing. I just use it on regular, like google.com, and I still get access to Gemini.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I mean, right?
Yes. So yeah, no, there's once again a lot of new things are being created at the moment. A lot of business models are being tested, and I don't think anyone knows at the moment what's going to work and what is not going to work, right?
No.
But AI is much more capable than it was 3 years ago, 4 years ago when ChatGPT launched, right? So in 2022, November 2022, when ChatGPT started, became available to the public. Once again, I'm sure OpenAI had no idea what to do with it.
No idea.
And they just released it and say, okay, guys, build something, show us what you can do with that. But as of today, we are not at that's not the same, I think, because right now AI is way better than it was back in 2022. So the use cases of, like, actually what AI can do for you are real right now. There's real use cases. AI can be your AI agent, it can be your assistant, it can code apps for you, it can develop softwares, it can help you in your work, like, as of now, right? So in 6 months, in 2 years, it's gonna be even better. And so that's why, like, I think right now they are all accelerating. Like, okay, now that it works, we actually need to see how we make the most money out of it, what is the perfect business model, how we can win in the AI race in the next couple of years. I think we are at this point right now. We are very, like, okay, we get to see.
So this is also really interesting, right? Because Facebook, I can't say Meta. It's so hard for me to do this, but I'm going to try to be disciplined here. Meta is also rolling out their own hardware. And I'm not talking about Oculus. Yeah. I'm talking about the Ray-Bans.
Yes.
And they've sold, what, 2 million of those?
Yeah, a lot of them.
That's 2 million distribution points for their artificial intelligence stuff. Right? That's one of the ways you have to think about it. So what's going to stop them? They already know how to build servers because they've built servers for probably 2 decades now, or a decade and a half. What's going to stop them from building their own other hardware? Yeah. They tried before, but there wasn't a real reason for it, but now there is.
Yeah, now there's one. Yep, now there's one.
Interesting. It's very interesting. This is going to be a good jumping off point for our conversation with William Baobin, right? Because we're just going to talk to him about how agentic AI builds stuff faster and scales better.
which actually Michael is the first time we are going to do a perfect transition because William is actually right now with us.
Let's bring him in.
Normally,
Let's bring him in.
our transition are always really,
How did
really
I do,
bad.
Martin? Did I get the transition better this time? I'm
Yes,
I'm
perfect.
not gonna get yelled at in the post recording meeting like I normally do.
Perfect. Hello, William. Can you hear us?
Awesome. How are you, man? Yes. Can you hear us? Oh, you look great.
Okay, cool.
You did. Perfect. Hello, William. Welcome to the
Oh,
live
actually,
with us.
in the smaller one, it looks better. Okay, sorry.
Your camera
Perfect.
angle's perfect. The T-shirt is perfectly branded. I always
Yeah,
ask,
well,
like, who do I have to pay off to get a T-shirt?
we're pretty bad at swag. So
I'm only kidding. Sorry, I'm only kidding.
you don't have to pay anybody off. I carry around stickers, and then I carry around these little like things that you stick on your laptop to hide your camera.
All right.
But yeah, t-shirts are a little like bulky to carry around. I'll try and
You
get you
should get
one
one
at
of
some
those.
point.
You should get one of those guns they have at like the NBA games and just like shoot it into the crowd at some meeting that you do. That would be funny.
Yeah, I think that's probably a opening for a liability if you get whacked in the head with a
Yeah,
flying t-shirt. But
probably. Probably.
yeah.
Can you imagine the story? What happened to those guys at Orbit Ventures? I don't know. They shot T-shirts into the crowd. Some guy got hurt. They sued them, and I don't know. Then it was all over. Not worth
That's
it.
the end of that.
Okay.
Cool.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about artificial intelligence. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds good. Let me know when you want to kick off, or do we already kick off?
We're already kicking off. You're already live. So what we wanted to bring you on. I mean, we should probably tell you this. We want to bring you on to talk about how Orbit is helping emerging market startups use agentic AI to build faster, scale more efficiently, and compete globally. I mean, and I think that that's pretty straightforward stuff. But you should know, just for context, that like we spent the last hour talking about how Nvidia and Microsoft and Apple and all these other companies are building basically AI-enabled PCs, and how the conversation around this has really changed in the last like 6 months, because in 2025 there was all this talk about AI PCs, but now they're really starting to say like, can we run this stuff locally and all this other stuff. But before we get into that, maybe you can tell our audience a little bit about the important work that Orbit does, and then we can kind of jump into the AI stuff and how you guys are working on it and how you guys see it. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds good.
Great.
So I've been doing tech investment 31 years now,
Has it been that
25 in
long?
emerging markets. Yeah, I'm old. Or I started very young, but
You did.
yeah,
When you were
I
like
was
6, I
remembering
think.
I taught Michael Dell how to use his BlackBerry. Um, So the
Wow.
funny thing is, like, it's his first day he had it, and he was like messing around with that scroll bar on the side of the brownie version, the original brownie version.
Yep.
And it's like, my thumb hurts. This is great, but my thumb hurts. I'm like, oh, if you hit the space bar, it'll go down screen by screen by screen. So I've been doing this a while, but 25 years in emerging markets, we think the emerging market challenges need emerging market solution, and then for Orbit, an emerging market VC. So SaaS has been huge in Western Europe, North America, and in a lot of markets around the world, but emerging markets can't afford $30 per person per month. And what AI is really opening up is the ability for the benefits of SaaS to make it to customers in the emerging markets who can't afford that much money, because SaaS was just priced out of their reach.
Yeah.
And for a lot of emerging markets, you actually give away the software for free, and
Yeah.
then you make money in other ways. So it really just depends on how much money they have to spend, and is the compute cheap enough, and are the models cheap enough to enable those companies to actually make a profit. So we talk about it as like AI with emerging markets characteristics, almost like you used to have internet with Chinese characteristics back in the
Right.
day when I started investing there over 20 years ago. Yeah.
So what does it look like? Where are founders in emerging markets already using AI? And maybe you can talk about this business model as well. Look, I'm sure you're familiar with Agnes AI. right?
Yep. I
Based in
heard of it. I
Singapore.
don't know it well, but
It's
yeah.
okay. We've had them on the show a couple of times, but they made an announcement yesterday saying that they're going to give away their model for free. And part of the reason why is because part of their mantra is they want to have artificial intelligence to be accessible for this entire cohort of people that can't pay $30 a month, that can't pay $20 a month to do this.
Yeah.
Maybe you can talk a little bit about how you're looking at emerging market founders and how you're talking to them about how they can use AI already to create meaningful operating leverage while still operating in a way that is emerging market focused in the way that you were just discussing.
Yeah, so I don't spend that much time in the US, but in the US, they talk a little bit about the AI becoming the product, or the AI is the product.
Right.
And the challenge is that the tokens are pretty expensive. So if the AI is the product, I mean, of course, costs coming down,
Right.
but it is expensive. Also, there's a shortage of compute available in the emerging markets as well, which kind of drives the cost up. And so our companies are leveraging AI to continuously improve their product. But usually the customers, the consumers, or even the enterprise customers, they're hitting the product, they're not hitting the AI.
What do
So
you
there
mean?
is an agent there, and it's an AI enabled an agent, but oftentimes they're not you're not burning credits when you're talking to the agent, because the agent is AI enabled, but it's not pure agentic. It's a AI enabled agent, and this way, whenever somebody hits it, you're not spending credits, or you're not spending compute money on compute.
How does that work though? In other words, they're not the agent itself is enabled by artificial intelligence, but it's not going out to the large language models and spending tokens on every query. How does that
Yeah.
work?
Yeah, so you basically you can build an agent that responds to queries, and you can train it so that it gets a query and it responds, and you know it'll just respond from the database as opposed to going all the way up to the agent and to the large language model. And so the product itself is AI driven,
Right.
but you're not, you're hitting a database basically,
Got it.
is a simple way to put it. You're not
Okay.
going all the way back up to the agent. Now, you can design it so that for simple queries, you're hitting the product. But if something gets a bit more complex, then you go up to an agent or you go up to a human. Some markets, like humans, are a lot cheaper than compute. You can structure it so that for if you pay more, or if it's super complicated, you get escalated to an AI, or you get escalated to a human.
So there again, you and I probably spend the exact same amount of time in the United States, pretty close to zero, right? I mean, I haven't been in the U.S. since 2023, and I have before that I hadn't been there since until 2008. So it's been a while for me, but I do read a lot of the news. And you probably read the news about Uber, where the CTO from Uber said that they burned through all their tokens in April, so they had this what they thought was a big enough budget, and that a lot of the stories that are coming out now just says that the token model is just too expensive. And I live in a
Yep.
market where human capital is not scarce. It's unevenly distributed, but it's not scarce at all, and it's not that expensive.
Yeah.
So the necessity to run agentic AI, and again, I talk to people at big banks, incumbent banks, not just in Thailand, but throughout the region in Southeast Asia, and frankly in South Asia as well. And their answer to me often is not just is human capital so inexpensive, but that their legacy systems that are set up are just not able to handle agentic AI in a way that makes sense for them, even just to integrate it or embed it into their stuff there. What do you
Yep.
think is about this model for tokens? Do you think this is going to be the persistent model going forward, or do you think this is just a transition phase into something that's going to be completely different? I have my own opinion, but I'm curious what you think and what your founders and what your startups are thinking as well.
So mostly they're taking the open source models, they're taking them in-house, and they might be like 2 or 3 months behind. So they're
Right.
getting 70, 80%, or maybe even 60% of the value of the most recent stuff. But they're bringing that inside. And what we focus on is unique data and solving an industry problem.
Go ahead.
So they're taking the models and they're swapping them in and out. But the key thing is that they control the data used to train the models. So we have a company in Southeast Asia that embeds in banks, and sits inside the bank's Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp, and farmers and people who want micro loans apply through the WhatsApp. But they're talking to an agent, but they're not talking to the AI directly. They're
Right.
going through the entire user journey with the agent. The loan application is collected on WhatsApp, feeds back into the system, the loan's given out, and then the loan is then collected. The total cost to process to the bank to process an entire loan from end to end is like $1. And
Wow.
so if you open that up and made it to, you'd go bankrupt if it were just working directly with the AI. But the AI is driving the automatic updates of the product and powering what those responses from the agent will be to a specific type of question. So it's always learning, it's always improving, and it's just brought down the cost of development significantly, so much so that you can almost afford to give away the software for free. Now,
Yeah.
this company is gotten to the point where they've gotten, they're in 60 plus banks and financial institutions. They're doing pretty well, to the point where, okay, if the bank brings the customer, then the bank pays $1. But if our company brings a customer and then processes the loan, then our company gets a profit share on the loan itself. And so you end up almost giving away the software for free, but you're making profit share. So this is in China versus America. In America, you have like a media model where you pay for user acquisition and you try and make money.
Right.
Whereas the Asia model or the China model has traditionally been, you don't have to pay for the user, but if money is made, there's a profit share. And so for our companies, we have like over 50 portfolio companies digitizing SMEs and micro mom and pops all around the world. And the software is basically free. There's a little bit of money made on fixing the supply chain, but then a lot of that money is made on providing financial services to everybody in the chain. And that's where the
Right.
money is, not in the software, but in something that actually makes money. But all of it becomes unprofitable if you're spending a ton of money on tokens.
Right. So, and I want to talk about tokens a little bit more, if you don't mind, because
Sure.
I'm not convinced. And again, maybe you have better information on this than I do, but I'm not convinced that even the large frontier labs know what a token costs them. Right. I'm really curious about what the math is on their compute in the sense that they're charging per token. I believe strongly that they're subsidizing that at some level, but I don't even think they know exactly what it costs, which is why I asked the question, do we think that that's going to be the model going forward? I think you're right, actually, and I think that the emerging market model is actually going to be the model that ends up working. And my proxy for this, or my metaphor for this, is
Okay.
Linux. And again, tell me where I'm wrong, in the sense that Linux has always been free, but Red Hat
Yeah.
is a multi-billion-dollar company because they've built services around it. And depending on what you need to pay for, how much you can afford, right? Because Linux also runs and Red Hat also runs in emerging markets. Maybe the pricing is different because the cost of capital is different and the cost of hiring people is different. But Linux itself is still fundamentally free in the same way that I believe at some level the frontier models are going to be free. I don't think that's where all the money's going to get made. I think what you're suggesting is that the money's going to get made on those services at the periphery that say we'll give you the software for free. And I love this idea of I always ask companies like, are you a this business or are you a fintech? Because if you have access to all these people and you're moving their money around, that's where you're going to make the money, not on the software that you're giving them. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll give you examples, but we're
Go,
in
go
we're
ahead.
in Asia, we're in Africa, we're in LATAM, and the economies there are unstructured and basically off record, right? They're
Yeah.
cash-based economies, or even when you do mobile payment, they're not being captured. So we don't do compute and we don't do semi. So within AI, very simply, there's the models, there's the unique data, and then there's solving an industry problem. We've always been focused on the unique data and solving an industry problem. People used to make fun of us because it's like, oh, you're just doing a bunch of wrappers. To some extent, yes, we were doing a bunch of wrappers. But what's happened is that the models are now sort of interchangeable. A lot of them are open source. What really matters is the unique data. So, for example, in Pakistan, we have three of our companies. They've digitized over 1 million SMEs. They're capturing all their transaction data. And we're watching like 6 billion US dollars in monthly transaction flow, which if you look at like the World Bank numbers, that's 25% of the economy. Obviously, we're not 25% of the economy because we only got 1 million SMEs, and there's supposedly 12 million SMEs in the country. It just means that, people don't have that data. People are not don't understand the size of the economy very well because
Right.
it's all informal. And one of the opportunities is that you take these informal economies, you collect tons of data on it, and then, yes, everybody's a fintech because you can use that data to provide financial services. You can also use that data to then introduce other services to those same companies and get a cross sell. So for Orbit Ventures, our approach is to help our companies, especially with cross sell. So you spend money to get a customer, and then you make money on that customer. But if you can sell two or three or four more services to that same customer, your customer acquisition cost is zero, and it's incremental revenue and basically profit share. So whoever got the customer makes more money, and other companies within our ecosystem, they get access to that user, or that company. They don't necessarily need to pay customer acquisition costs, but then they give profit share after they make money on that user. And in
Right.
this way, we can scale in a very capital efficient way. So we take this, you know, capital efficient approach when it comes to tech, when it comes to customer acquisition, when it comes to monetization, all the way across. And this is an emerging markets approach. If you brought this to the US, where you're doing lifetime affiliate for profit share, you probably get laughed out of the room. But for emerging markets, it makes a lot of sense.
But isn't it also the case? Look, when even when you and I first met each other, it must have been 10 years ago or more,
Yeah,
there was still this, it was sort of at the tail end of this idea of you could just copycat some of the business models that were taking place essentially in the United States, not always in Silicon Valley, but
yeah,
essentially what
yeah,
was going on in the United States. You could copycat it, cut and paste it in some ways, localize it, bring it to South Asia or Southeast Asia, and that would work. But I feel like in the AI space, in the agentic AI space, in the generative AI space, that's different now. So I'm curious, like, when because in the old days, right, a startup would come in and say, we're going to build this thing, it looks like that thing in the US. I mean, Grab may
yeah,
be the
yeah,
perfect example of this, right? But that's no longer relevant, I think, if I understand what you're saying. So when startups come in now to talk to Orbit, or when you're going out and looking for startups to invest in, how are the ones that you're looking at now different than the ones that were there 10 years ago? If they're not copycatting, how do you teach them to say, you have to have unique data, which is really the Pakistan idea. The Pakistan example is really great, right? Because again, it's not gray. It's just like non-standardized for the way that data is gathered. But if you understand that data, then you can build a really robust business around it because nobody else is going to understand that. But from an artificial intelligence standpoint, the application of that as well, on top of this, everybody's kind of like a fintech, which is a little bit of a generalization. How do the startups come in now and say, okay, we need to have unique data and we also have to solve some kind of industry problem? How do we then enable this with artificial intelligence? Because it's been very new, like in the last, I would say, like 16 or 17 months that companies are
yeah,
doing this. Yeah. But they can't just
yeah.
cut
I
and
mean,
paste what's happening in the US. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, we don't call it copy paste. I mean, I spent 15, 18 years investing in China, and it was called copy paste, but it's actually more like learn and localize.
Yeah, sorry.
So
I was simplifying because I thought
yeah,
the
yeah,
audience would understand that, but I agree with you
yeah.
completely. Sorry, go ahead.
So we're solving, the list of problems stays the same. What changes is the tech, right? And so we've been solving. We have 50 companies in our portfolio that digitize SMEs. We have three in Pakistan. We've got one in Bangladesh
Wow.
that has 220,000 SMEs digitized. They grew 21% in January, month on month, and they're up to like 50 million a month in GMV and net income profitable. What AI enables is lowering the cost of development and basically making the delivery of these services much more efficient.
Right.
And so the tech is definitely changing, the problems don't. So, for example, secondhand smartphones, having a lower cost smartphone for low income people in emerging markets around the world is very, very important. This model worked in China 15, 20 years ago. We've invested in five companies around the world, one in Indonesia, one in India, one in Middle East, one in Africa, one in LATAM, doing the exact same thing. And so we call it, it's almost like on the one side AI enabled, on the other side it's AI resilient or AI resistant, in that you still need a phone, right?
Right.
That business is not going away. Like people need to eat, so the mom and pop shop needs to get that food delivery that we help. But the cool thing is that you can then have a very inexpensive product to help with that cross selling idea. And enterprise is a bit different, but for the consumer and the SME side, it's pretty revolutionary. For the enterprises, a lot of these enterprises around the world, even multinationals,
Hmm.
they are there's global headquarters, say in the U.S. or Europe. They have a lot of autonomy on the ground. Especially in the emerging markets, and we're enabling them to do some of the things that have been available to their U.S. and Western European colleagues, but we're just simply too expensive or not applicable to the problems that they had in their own markets. So we look at that as a huge opportunity, bringing that like SaaS level of capability, but localized for Africa or localized for South Asia. Or localized for Southeast Asia, at a much lower cost than available before.
Do
So,
we run? Do we
uh,
run into?
yeah,
Sorry, do you mind if I interrupt
yeah,
you? I'm sorry.
yeah. Go
Do
ahead.
we run
Yeah,
into
as a pitch.
situations? Do we run into situations in emerging markets? You brought up a really interesting point, and it just made me think about this. You have a multinational corporation, let's say based in Chicago. They expand into Southeast Asia where the labor costs are just completely different. And maybe even the legacy systems that they're using or the tech stack on which it sits are different, even though it's the same company. Do you find that sometimes the stuff that gets not exported from the US, like from this made up company in Chicago into Southeast Asia, that the Southeast Asian people would just go like, we don't actually even need the newest technology because we can just hire 15 more people to do this? Is there some tension there? And then if that is the case, is there a startup that comes in to try to solve that problem that has to attack it in a completely different way because it's in an emerging market and because access to human capital is so much cheaper?
Yeah, I think it's around pricing points, right?
Yeah.
So the budgets are very different. The regulatory environments are very different. So when we help we're lightly engaged with 240 multinationals and conglomerates, and
Okay.
we spend time not just working with the startups to push into our corporate partners, but we try and understand the needs of the corporate partners, and then
Mm.
where there's a fit, we pull.
Yep.
So if you think about product market fit, the enterprises are the market, and they're telling us what they want, and it takes a lot of the risk out if we know that there's somebody on the other side willing to pay for something, right?
Right.
Uh,
For
and,
sure.
and so we're just matching it in. And our advice and what we've seen work is going in business unit by business unit, country by country, and then expanding and trying to get across the region. Once you have, a customer like P&G in two countries, then you might hit the regional head, but you never go global because it'll just get stuck.
Yeah.
And so we call it the Asian backdoor. Now we're working on building the African backdoor. But how do you
Right.
get into Siemens, or how do you get into Bosch, or how do you get into Unilever? We're partnered with these guys, but our partnerships are generally on the local and regional level, and then over time we build with the global. But for companies that we're working with, we're really focused on getting them in at that local level, and so it's a lot stronger when you're pitching a large multinational and your case study is that multinational in
Yeah.
another country.
Yeah. Can I give you an example of what happened to me when I
Yep.
was working in a big corporate, actually in
Yeah.
two
Yeah.
separate places. When I was working at UBS, the tech team that was building for our business was based in London, and having them get anything done for the local markets in Japan or Hong Kong or Taiwan or Indonesia or Malaysia was almost impossible.
Yep.
And it would have been again, because they saw everything through the lens of, and this is how I know what you're saying is true, because they saw everything through the lens of, this is the way it works in London and Europe, so why doesn't it work that way in Japan or in Indonesia? And you're just like, I don't even have time to explain it to you. But if there could have been a startup there in the region that could have written that technology for us, it would have been faster, cheaper, and more efficient and effective for us to be able to hire them at UBS to be able to run and fix our systems there. So I know that that's true. And the same thing was true at a couple of the other big companies where I worked, where the tech was not equally distributed globally. And because the markets locally were so different than they were in the main
Yeah.
country, it would have been better for us to get that stuff done, as you said, learned and local. That would have been way better. So I know that that's true for big MNCs. For people that are thinking like that can't be the case, I know it's the case because I experienced it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of our companies, they work with Accor, the big
Yep.
French
French
global
hotel
hotel
company.
chain. They
Yep.
started in China, and China's its own separate animal. This is like 7 years ago. It might be
Yep.
more difficult today, but and then they expanded to just start across Asia, Southeast Asia. Now they're global, and there's like 30,000 Accor employees on the platform. And it's also the company is very capital efficient in that they did not have to raise a lot of VC. Actually, I think we're the only VC invested.
Nice.
They grew with the, as they penetrated the customer market by market by market. So they might have started in China, but it's an international, American entrepreneur, right?
Right.
So now we don't help so much getting into multinationals in China because China, the tech stack is so different, the
Yeah.
environment is so different that you'd have to rebuild the product from scratch for it to even work in China, even with a
Right.
large multinational. So we're
Right.
just doing the same thing, but in Southeast Asia, in Singapore, in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and now for since 2020, we've been operating in the Middle East. We have 97 portfolio companies in MENA, half of which we helped expand there from outside the region to get sales.
Interesting.
So for us, we help with sales and trying to make that bridge in terms of our corporate partners and the startups. Now if a corporate has a problem and we don't have a solution or we don't know of a solution, well, that's great. It helps us become a better VC, because then if I
Yeah.
find a founder who wants to build to solve the problem, we back that founder, and then once it gets to a certain level of maturity, then we match it in. And what AI has enabled us all to do is to get that level of product maturity much, much quicker
Faster.
than
Yeah.
in the past. Yeah, the last 3 months have been pretty crazy.
Are your startups using products like Codex, like Claude Code, and like Cursor to write their software as well?
A bunch of them are leveraging a lot of different platforms, and they swap them in, swap them out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But definitely, I mean, we had one company that went from like 50 engineers down to 10. Uh,
Oh, wow.
so um, when you think about a lot of if you're digitizing mom and pop shops, the most important thing is to know the workflow and how to make money,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the complications. It's not like massively complicated. It's more like the model as opposed to the complexity of the tech. So yeah, a lot of our company has been a lot more efficient of late. And the key thing is in that, they're definitely burning tokens on developing, but they're not burning tokens on their customers.
Right. Can you talk a little bit, just because it's new to me, and I think it's probably new to some of the viewers and listeners, just maybe some of the things that you've learned in the last, what you said, since 2020, operating in the Middle East, operating in MENA, and just like what some of the subtle nuanced differences are than operating in South Asia or Southeast Asia.
Yeah, so I think, you know, like Southeast Asia, it's not one country, it's many
Nope.
countries, and
Yep.
even within the country, it's quite different. Like
Yeah.
there's, tier one city Indonesia, and there's tier two, tier three.
Yep.
Middle East, again, very different countries. It's not one area, and each market has its own, uniqueness. So UAE is pretty heavy on corporates. Most of our sales that we help our companies get are to multinationals in UAE. It also has a pretty small but vibrant, middle class, upper middle class, lower middle class, and then there's a low income. Versus Saudi, it's much larger population,
Yep.
and different regulatory environment. And a lot of the companies in Saudi are government backed or government owned or government related. So the sales process to help our company sell into the UAE is quite different than to Saudi. I think we have like 40 something companies operating in Saudi, most of which did not start from Saudi.
Mm.
And so what we do is we, go to our corporate partners or the state-owned enterprises or whatever you want to call them, and figure out what their needs are. The great thing about Saudi is they have a long list of challenges. They have very clear and definite goals and
Mm.
KPIs. They have people who are quite well compensated to drive to those goals. But if they miss the goals, they're out. Right? They get fired.
Fair enough.
So that makes it actually quite interesting client to sell to, because it's a highly motivated customer, and the businesses are not that digitized. So there's a lot of low hanging fruit there. And so, they're using Excel and spreadsheets and stuff. So even like construction tech, having a system where all the different, the contractors, the subcontractors, the planners, the components, where it all comes together under one framework. It's difficult to design properly, but it's not that difficult to code once you know what the design should be.
Right.
But it's taking these very traditional, very, very large industries, and reducing drag significantly, 5 to 8, 10x. And there's a lot more sort of I don't know, centralization, you could say, in the Middle East versus like Southeast Asia, where there's a lot of family conglomerates or family-owned conglomerates. There are multinationals. The markets are they don't have as much money as say the Middle East. They have larger local markets. One thing that we're focused on that's a little bit different than others is that we focus not just on the local people who live there, but also the expats,
I was going to say.
because the people who power the Middle East are mostly from Southeast Asia, South Asia, and Africa, and other parts of the world.
Yep.
Yeah, we're working with I mean, when this has nothing to do with AI, but we're working with a telco in the Middle East, and they're giving us access to market health insurance. Not to the local population, but to the expats. And we're selling health insurance to the expats for their family members back in their home country.
Right.
And so that works because we have, a health insurance platform that we invested in, one in India, one in Pakistan, one in Bangladesh, one in Egypt, one in Morocco, one in Nigeria. And then this way, our telco partner can actually capture revenue from people who normally don't spend in country because they're sending all their money home.
Home. Yeah.
And this is where the ecosystem effect can come in. And before, you used to do targeting quite manually. Now the cost of like doing the targeting and cross promotion to the family members back home, just the cost has come down because you don't need to have a 30, 40, 50 person tech team in order to do something like this. You can get away with one or two people to do this.
Yeah. I mean, the UAE is the perfect example of this, right? The number of overseas workers dwarfs the number of local workers, and most of those people are sending money somewhere else. And yeah, it provides a massive opportunity to be able to do this. One more thing before I let you go. Do you want to talk at all about how female founders approach AI adoption differently?
Yeah, so it's difficult for us because we don't have a particular lens. Like it fluctuates, but 25 to 45% of the companies we back in any one year are female led. And So we don't actually, I can't, it's difficult for me to answer the question because we don't, a founder's a founder's a founder. We work with them in a very similar way.
Fair
And
enough.
so we haven't seen that much of a difference between one of our companies is female led and one of our other companies that's not female led. But the thing is that we like to have diversity in the founding teams. And a lot of our companies are actually attacking issues that everybody, the entire population has, but also that are special to women. Like we have a company in Pakistan where they're solving a problem for white collar workers to get to work. For men, it costs 10% of their salary on average. For women, it's 30% because they don't want to take a public bus. They want to have private transport, and that just eats their salary
Right.
for safety reasons or for you know personal reasons.
I understand.
So they digitize drivers, buses, cars, validated drivers. There's a safety function in there, and it's basically like a ride share with safety attached to it. So
Yep.
bringing down the cost of people getting to work. Female founder, both men and women using it. I'd say it's like over 60% women, but men are also getting a benefit as well. And so you know we're digitizing. We have 50 companies digitizing SME mom and pop shops. Well, in a mom and pop shop there's a mom and a pop, right?
Right.
So we don't really differentiate that much. And in terms of how they approach AI, I think just because of educational background, you're getting female entrepreneurs that might not come from a traditional tech background, but they know the space very, very well.
Right.
And before, they couldn't do a startup unless they, got a CTO, hired a big team. Now they can at least experiment and then maybe get to MVP on their own without actually having to hire a big team and spend a lot of their money to get up and getting some market validation like MVP or early market validation before they go on and try and find a co-founder or try and bring on a formal tech team.
Super cool. Okay, I'm going to let you go. I
Yeah.
hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. It was awesome to have you on. You're welcome to come back anytime you have some like new information or anything new or interesting you want to talk to us about. It was great to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Have a good
Thank
one.
you. Yeah, you too. Okay, that's it for AGTP Daily. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you so much to all the people in the chat. The back and forth was kind of amazing. We'd love to do as much of that as possible. Give us a thumbs up on today's video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on all of our socials, on X, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn. Let us know in the comments if there's anything you'd like us to discuss on our upcoming shows, any guests you'd like us to have, any topics you'd like us to cover. And again, the back and forth in the chat is really great, particularly when we're live. We'll be back again tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you again to Martin Runford for everything that he does. My name is Michael Waitz. Bye for now.